Hi, welcome. This is Health Matters with me, Dishan Kumar. Today with me is Mike Lin, Managing Director of Edward Lifesciences, Southeast Asia. Thank you, Mike, for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
So, Mike, let's start off with people are wondering, Edward Lifesciences, they've not really heard about it. What does your company do?
Edward Lifesciences, we're a pioneer in the valve space. So we make valves for the heart. So a company started about 60 years ago. It was an engineer named Miles Edwards. He was an engineer to design fuel pumps for airplanes during World War II. Afterwards, he retired, and he wanted to go after what he believed to be the most innovative organ he's ever felt, which is the human heart. He wanted to know how to optimize it.
So he was an engineer who designed pumps.
Yes.
And hence he thought there's pumps in the heart.
The heart is the most ingenious device he could think of because over the course of a lifetime, it will easily go through at least 3 billion plus heartbeats. So to go about it, he initially thought to design an artificial heart. He had friends who are early days in cardiac surgeons, just commented that the material science back in the 50s wasn't available to do that.
Okay.
But for the structural part, the structural heart, the first one that tends to fail is the aortic valve.
Okay.
So we thought, let's go and design the artificial valve for the aortic position.
Okay. So now talking about valves, artificial heart valves and things like that, what type of patient actually needs artificial heart valves? Because apparently our heart valves, the heart beats throughout your whole life. It's the most hardworking organ there. But when do people actually start realizing they actually need a heart valve?
There's multiple paths, there's multiple reasons why the aortic valve may start to fail. Now, granted, there's 4 valves out there. So today we're just focused on the aortic valve.
Yeah.
And I don't pretend to be a physician to go through all the different epidemiology for every failure mode.
Yeah.
All right. But ultimately, if the valve doesn't open and close fully, right, that means the blood isn't flowing well. So this part of the heart pumps the oxygenated blood to your brain, to your body. When that doesn't go well, you're going to get tired. And the heart itself is also muscle. It also needs oxygen. So when it's not pumping well, itself isn't getting enough oxygen. This creates a tremendous amount of problem everywhere.
Okay, all right. Now, Edward Lifesciences, let's say there is a patient out there who thinks that they have a problem and they go and see a physician. How do you come into that whole process? And talking about heart valves and things like that, what type of heart valves do you guys have? And maybe you can talk a bit more about that.
So fundamentally, when it comes to medical devices, we keep it very simple. We view ourselves as an engineer. We work with a physician. We design products, number 1, has to work. And number 2, we work with them on the pathway to do the surgery. So the procedure could go in and out safely. Right? So since 1958, we've been working with surgeons around the world to figure out which valve works best for the patients and what are the different pathways to do the surgery to make sure the procedure is safe.
Okay. So the process of placing that heart valve, what the patient goes through, and the type of heart valves that you guys have, is there a lot of types out there in the market currently?
There's multiple evolutions since 1958.
Okay.
We first started off with the mechanical valve. That's just what the material sciences were available during the day.
Okay.
We have since discontinued that as we continue to evolve. We do believe it's all about the patient. So as newer technology of valve becomes available, and based on clinical evidence, the older ones become, in our views, inferior. So we discontinue that to make sure the best option is always available.
Okay.
Back then, which is a mechanical valve, it's in one way, one could say it will last forever because it's going to be more durable than organs. But the issue is once it's inside the body, you want to make sure it doesn't have any clots forming. You want to make sure there's no plaque buildup. So to do that, the patient with the artificial mechanical valve has to be on medical management for the rest of their lives. They have to take blood thinners. And that blood thinner changes every month based on your activity level, based on your diet, based on other condition you may have.
So the patients have to consistently go every month to see the doctor and change their medications accordingly.
Optimal treatment, we heard around the world, is monthly tests and monthly potential changes in their dosage every month. That creates a certain lifestyle change a lot of people may not want to see. And also, because two issues happen. If you don't take the right dosage, if it's too low, clots will build. And when those clots build, they don't necessarily go away. It's not as if you could take more and it will dissolve the clot. If that clot ever gets released, there's a risk of stroke. If you take too much dosage, your blood is very thin. That may cause internal bleeding in your organs. If bad things happen, such as an accident, car accident, those type of things where you happen to bleed, the high dosage really inhibits your own natural ability to clot up and stop the bleeding.
So it's a very thin line they have to walk on, patients.
It's very difficult. We recognize that. So yes, it does. We designed a valve that will improve the condition to fix aortic stenosis, aortic regurgitation, but it does have a side effect that we recognize. Other generations came about, which is a biological valve, tissue valve. Those tissue valve doesn't require medication. So this is where we evolved to now.
And talking about research for this type of technologies, how much does Edward Lifesciences put into research, or is it much more of a medical industry? You guys take the research being done by medical industry, or does your company do their own research on trying to find the best way, the best valves out there, the best technology to be used for patients?
We take pride in our research, and because we're the pioneer in this space, we tend to notice over time we spend more time in this space than anybody else. We always collaborate with physicians and any ideas we come up with. But it's in our it's a public information. We spend 16% of our revenue in research and development, more than anybody else in the space. We're passionate about bringing new innovation to the patients.
All right. And talking about the patients, now after they get an artificial heart valve, how is their life after that, based on the patients that Edward Lifesciences have dealt with? Does it affect the quality of their life?
This is what I'm most proud of. Where you replace the diseased heart leaflets with our heart valve, the tissue valve, doctors will say it cures the disease because the stenosis, the calcification of the leaflet, it's gone because we put a new valve in. So this is unlike other type of disease states, such as various type of cancer, where you hope it works, but it's not a guarantee that it will work. Right here, after the procedure, the disease is cured. The patient just needs to recover from the procedure and just go back to recuperate and go back to an active lifestyle. We're very proud of that.
Your company, Edward Lifesciences, not only known for their artificial heart valves, but also critical care technologies. So let's talk about that. What are the types of critical care technologies that your company handles?
You know, because of the procedure we started, which is the valve replacement surgery, you know, when you go through a long, lengthy procedure, how the body is functioning immediately after procedure, you know, how the heart is functioning is fluid dynamics. You want to optimize the fluid optimization of the body. The critical care field came about with that. Right, and so for this field, it's now just beyond the cardiac procedure. For any lengthy critical procedures where the patient is likely sicker to begin with, or it takes a long time under operations under anesthesia, you know, we have this monitoring devices that can be used to understand how the body is doing during the procedure. We recognize if a patient is managed properly before the therapy, before the procedure, if they're managed properly in terms of a pre-operative goal-directed therapy, and they're managed with these devices during the procedure, they tend to recover much more quickly. And this is a very much of a cost-saving discussion for the hospitals because if you can minimize complications after the procedure, patients go home faster, it doesn't require as much resources for the hospital to manage patients.
So how much of this technology is in hospitals right now?
Not enough. We recognize that a lot of the hospitals are not there yet in terms of understanding this. When it comes to the fluid optimization, it's a very subtle field. You know, the anesthesiologist and the surgeon really needs to understand and appreciate how well the patient is doing during the procedure in this manner has a huge effect in the outcome. Oftentimes, people just thought that the patient is under anesthesia, everything must be fine. And that's not necessarily the case. If they are not fluid dynamically managed, if they're a little too hypotensive, it could cause problems later.
But in the current technology, in the operation theater, when a patient goes under, is that type of technology enough for them, or they still need more devices to monitor even more things happening in the patient's body?
Those devices, what we refer to for the Edwards critical care devices, they could be used afterwards in the ICU. So we could still monitor the patient correctly.
Okay.
But at the end of the day, it's all about the physician team and the nurses. You know, if it's for the very experienced team, and there's definitely many of them in Malaysia, you know, for them to be managing the patient before they come into the operating room, for them to be managed in the ICU, that entire team, the coordination with the nurses and different specialties, those are very, very important to the care. I would not say it's just one device that would be the cure-all.
Okay. All right, Mike. Talking about technologies now currently, what is your company actually pursuing currently?
This is an exciting discussion to have. We have a newest generation of a surgical valve that has two really important features and is available in Malaysia. The first one is the tissue is lasting longer than ever before. It's revolutionary for us. This is going to be tremendously helpful for younger patients. Again, the younger patients who wants to be active.
Yeah.
The second one is knowing, as I mentioned earlier, about the transcatheter valve. Transcatheter valve is a valve that goes through the catheter. It's probably for older patients because it's less trauma. This valve, if the patient has to have one now, when they do get older, if they do need to come back, if they do need to have a re-intervention, it's compatible with the transcatheter heart valve.
Oh, okay.
So it's made as a docking station, if necessary. And that, put the two together, it really completes the entire through life support, which is very important for these patients.
Now, talking about monitoring systems, critical care technologies, your company has that type of technology. They developed that type of technology. What are one of the new stuff that you guys are working on?
The holy grail for monitoring is not just the fact that the body is being managed. It's really about how well is the blood going to the brain. We're able to close that recently. We acquired a company that's really known in the space. It is now part of the portfolio, so it's integrated into all of our hardware and devices. This is all about cerebral oximetry. That's really fancy words for just brain monitoring, how much oxygenated blood is going to the brain. So when we put this stuff, when we put the two together, when we go through a lengthy procedure or recovery or just people in ICU, to know the oxygen level of the blood going to the brain is the utmost importance.
Yep.
That is by far the most important organ. And if for some reason, if the oxygen level is not enough or the blood flow is not enough, then our traditional advanced fluid optimization monitoring devices will help to figure out and troubleshoot what exactly is going on. We put the two together, it's really now the cutting edge of monitoring. This is now, we have big data to support, with algorithm to support it. We can really help predict with the physician what's about to happen.
Now, final question, Mike, before we go for a break. Plans for next few years, do you guys have plans to expand, to go to different countries, develop technologies? What's happening for the next few years?
We partner with all the key cardiac centers in every country. We look at what their capabilities are and what their practice is. And where possible to deliver the best care to the patients, we always work on that.
All right. All right. Thank you so much, Mike, for your time.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching. This has been Health Matters. We'll go for a short break. We'll be back right after this.